Tired of his promises. You know, when God gave me this message, I had to be real with myself. Have you ever taken the time to really be real with you? I mean, when nobody's listening, when no one is watching, just you and him, and that's it. When you sit down and you don't even have to look at yourself in the face, you just kind of look inside of your own self. You close your eyes and you say, Lord, what's inside? And as I was preparing this message, I had to do that because as a pastor, we're always supposed to do the right thing. You're supposed to. I mean, it's like if I did something wrong, you guys would probably lynch me, you know? But I do things wrong every day. Every day. So as a pastor, you're supposed to always do the right thing. So to question or to say something like, Lord, I'm tired of your promises, it almost comes off as being offensive. It almost comes off as being ungrateful. It almost comes off as being just a spoiled brat. But that's where I was. So as I sat and I dwelt in myself, I analyzed my life and I said, Lord, you've made all these promises to me. I mean, I remember the day that the first promise I heard from God was when I was about 7 to 8 years old in my mother's job from a lady that didn't know me from a hole in the wall. Opened up the Bible in Matthew 7, verse 1, and put it on my hands and said, read it to me and explain it to me. And I started reading verse 7, 1 through 5, where it says, do not judge so that you're not judged, because the same measure that you measure, you're also going to be measured. And it continues on. It talks about the swine, about us giving our pearls before the swine. And this lady said, you know, I read it, and I'm like, it's the first time I read this book, this pretty big book. Is this in those days, is this a Britannica encyclopedia? You guys remember Britannica? You had one of those? I used to go to my friend's house just to read it. It's like, I got to do a report. Come over here. Let me get that. There was no Google back then. You guys are spoiled. You guys can do it from your house. I couldn't do that. I had to call a teacher. Remember call a teacher? 1212, call a teacher? That was my Google. So as I'm there and I'm analyzing my life, and I start analyzing all the promises that God did, and I remember this day, and I remember how this woman looked at me after I opened up a book I never read, and I explained to her what it said. And I mean, I think I was preaching back then, and I didn't even realize it. And this woman looked at me, she says, you're going to be a pastor. And I said, what in the world is a pastor? I mean, I had no idea. My mother was dabbling at the time with witchcraft. You know, we became Catholic for a time. I was baptized in the Catholic Church. I mean, there ain't no sin in that. You know, I did it. I went to St. Teresa's on 100 and something street up here in Ozone Park. And I did all these things, but I had no idea what a pastor was. No idea. So as time progressed, I put it aside. I said, whatever, it is what it is. You know, you get these promises sometimes and you hear them and they seem so outlandish. You don't understand them. You just kind of put them in that quiver for another day. And time passed and another man got up, and now this time we were Christian. Another man got up and decided to talk to me and tell me I was going to be a pastor. So at that point I said, okay, I have an idea what a pastor is. And I said, that's got to be a cool job. Yeah, because I looked at my pastors. My pastors were good, man. They took a month vacation every year. They did good. They did good. Let me tell you, when my pastors used to go on vacation, everybody in the church said, here, have a little something, something on me. We don't believe that here. You know what? If pastor wants to go on vacation, he got his own money. Amen? But I saw the pastor, and I was like, that's pretty cool. He got a nice ride. I said, this is good. I could do that. Little did I know everything that happened behind the scenes. So as I walked into being a pastor and having this quiver of promises, I mean, I can't tell you how many promises God gave me and how many places he told me I would go and how many places he said we are going to go and how many things he said we are going to do. And that's all cool, but the time that it takes the promise of God sometimes to develop in our lives, it's long and frustrating. And this is where I had to be me with myself. Because I had to sit there with myself and I had to say, self, yeah, God said that you're going to have full-time ministry, but it's not time yet. But tell myself, my other part of myself, that says, hey, Joell, man, you're driving almost 7 hours a day to get to work. You're doing this, you're doing that. You're flying, you're sleeping outside of your house for 2 days, sometimes a week. You're traveling on a plane. It's bad when the stewards and the stewardess start knowing who you are. And they say, hey, Mr. Perez, it's bad when you get to that point. So that part of me was telling the other part of me, this whole full-time ministry thing, are you nuts? And then I started just looking at the promises, and once I didn't start believing for that promise, it just started going down the line. I said, Lord, this is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And I'm a pastor. So I'm sure that somebody else here has felt that way before. So as I was sitting there and I'm preparing this message, the title was the hardest part for me. I had to sit down and I said, all right, Lord, I get it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to stop lying to myself. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. So I just let God have it. I said, Lord, I hate the fact that my mother's sick. I hate the fact that my daughter sometimes is sick. I hate the fact that I dealt with rejection my whole life. I hate the fact that I was molested as a child. And I started going down the line of things that happened to me, and I started saying, God, I said, why am I in church? All of this junk that's happened to me. Why am I in church? Why am I serving you? I had to get to that lowest point in my life while I was still preaching, while I was still motivating people, while I was telling people, you can do all things through Christ, and I'm at home feeling like the biggest piece of garbage that you can imagine. See, you guys think you have it hard. You're just listening to somebody tell you to do everything and that you can do everything. Another thing is being that person that has to stand up here and tell you can do everything while you feel like you got nothing left. Zero, zilch. Why do I share this with you? So that you can say, oh my God, Pastor Joel is breaking down. Pastor Joel will never break down. Never, ever break down. Never, never. I went to dinner with a couple recently, and I got into it with them because, this person tried to explain to me, but you have options, because I was a little frustrated. I'm expressing my frustration, but you have options. I said, no, I don't have options. No, you have options. You can stop doing this, and you can stop doing that. I said, no, you see, there's one thing that I have in life, and it's my word. And I gave my word to God that I was going to see this through. And I gave my word to God, and that's the reason that I wake up the time that I wake up. And that's the reason that I put in the long hours, because I gave my word to him. And you know what's crazy? He's never failed me. Just because sometimes in my mind it feels long doesn't mean he failed me. His promises always come through. The crazy part, and I'm so excited about 1 Corinthians 15:36. The crazy part about his promises is they're like seeds. But listen to this. A seed must die before it can give fruit. And too many of us have his promises up here. And what we've done is we've created a golden calf out of his promise. We worship his promise. We idolize his promise. I worship the fact, I think sometimes, in all honesty, I'm like, I can't wait till I'm full-time ministry. I'm going to go into the office like at 10 in the morning. Some days I'll leave at 3. And I'm going to take vacation, because this time I'm going to take vacation. That's me just being honest with you. And I'm like, Lord, and then, I'm going to tell the people that I need to make more money. And I'm like, and I need to do this. And I'm like, here I have this promise, and I'm building up the arms of the promise and the legs of the promise. And I have this God that I'm serving, this promise. Is it a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. The promise isn't a bad thing. The bad thing is I've created a God out of the promise. So what happens is that God, like I just told you in 1 Corinthians 15:36, it says that seed has to die. It doesn't have the same form. You see, the promise does not have the same form when it's birthed as when it was spoken. It changes. It evolves. It mutates in a good way. The reason it mutates is because the promise in the natural form can never develop into something supernatural. Only God can inspire the supernatural. So when the promise is spoken from a prophet, from a person of God, we receive it and we're joyful. And what happened? We're like, yes, Lord, yes. Pastor David is going to be in Florida tonight. We're going to be there with him. And I'm excited because I know every time he comes, God talks to me. God, so I'm like excited. I'm like, man, I'm going to get something new today. But it got to a point where I started getting annoyed by Pastor David. So I'm just being honest. I can lie to you guys. Because I'm like, oh, he's going to come and prophesy some word to me and tell me about how God is going to take me to this country and that country. I'm like, all right, go ahead. And every time he would do it. And I'm like, but Lord, and here I am. I'm like, this promise and this promise. But now what happened is the golden calf in my life, the idol in my life, the promise that I've lifted up in my life, after a while, it started getting ugly because it looked unattainable. It didn't look realistic. I didn't think I would ever attain it. So I started getting angry at the promise. And I got to the point where I was sitting in my room, and when I first got the message, it was on a plane, and I'm sitting on the plane, and I said, I am tired of his promises. And then I changed it to the promises because I wanted to do the politically correct thing. But I was tired of his promises. I was tired about hearing what was to come. And you know what's crazier? That my wife has a different revelation than I do when it comes to the promises of God. God doesn't tell her in advance what's going to happen. He tells me. And I'm the most impatient person on this planet. So here I am saying, all right, God, oh, you're going to give me a new R8? Yes, Lord. Where is it, Lord? Where is it? And she's like, just chilling. She's like, God, whatever you want. And then it just comes. And I'm like, she didn't have to wait for it. She didn't have to fight for it. You know, I mean, she has to wait for me to change and me to be a better husband and me to be a better father and all that, yes. But she, you know, God just blesses her and pours out on her things that she didn't even ask for. And I'm like, I want that. I want that. And he's like, but I'm giving it to you. I'm just giving it to you the way you need it because I have to break down the impatience inside of you. You see, the promise can't come to us if we're not ready for the promise. And a lot of us are tired of hearing of the promise because we want that satisfaction now. But God is saying, if I gave you that satisfaction right now in this instant, you might not appreciate it. You might not love it. You might not care for it. What if God provided this full-time ministry or I made it happen? And all of a sudden I started draining the funds of the church to the point where there was no money. And then I got to a point where I said, oh man, we don't have money to pay the rent this week. And then I said, man, and my tithe check ain't coming in because I ain't getting paid. What if it was out of time and I did that? Would that be right? When God does something, he does it perfectly. There's never a lack. There's never a dull moment. You know, the biggest promise and the biggest pact that I've ever made with God was this church, New York. Not even Florida, New York. Sat down one day in my living room with my son Justin opening up service. My wife was singing, I was preaching. Adam and Kayla were there, and then some people straggled in later on. And I remember going into the presence of God and saying, God, this is my deal with you. I'm always negotiating. As long as you pay your bills, I will keep doing this. And I have seen the church go up, and we have seen the church go up, and we've seen the church go down. And we've seen it go up, and we've seen it go down. And it's like the roller coaster of spirituality. And I'm tired of it. Straight up, I'm tired of it. And I'm like, God, what's going on? You talk about these multitudes. What's going on, Lord? What's the deal? And he tells me that it's not into that point where I allow him to do what he's going to do at his level that it's not going to happen. But the awesome part about my God is that even in those moments where I feel the lowest, he's always consistent with his part of the deal. Has he failed at making a payment for you? Has he failed you in the sense of giving you something that you needed right then and there? Never. We see failure where we want things, but where we need them, he always comes through. Give me an amen if you believe that. What promise? What is a promise, and why do we get frustrated with promises? Those are the 2 points that I'm going to be talking about today. Next time I come, I'm going to be talking about the 5 steps to coping with the promise. Coping. You have to actually cope with the promise, and we're going to get into that in a couple of weeks. But what is a promise? First and foremost, as you can see there, a promise is a declaration or assurance that one will do a particular thing or that a particular thing will happen. Does it say by a certain time? It just says that it's going to happen. It doesn't say that it's going to happen the way that someone wants it. It just says it's going to happen. Isn't it crazy how God gives us promises and we expect him to do them or to fulfill them in a certain way? And we say, okay, Lord, but if this is going to happen, then this person has to be here and that person has to be here. And we need to, like my wife all the time, like, oh, Lord, we praying in for some millionaires into the church. God bless her soul. You know, somebody hit the lotto. I'm like, you got to play the lotto to hit it. You know, and yeah, that would be awesome. You know, you get one big check, and guess what? You have a nice place here, and you get a nice place in Florida, and you get a nice place in Colombia, and you get a nice place everywhere, and amen, and that's all dandy and good. But if we're not ready here for growth, then why want it? It's like that person that lives in the projects, no offense to anyone who lives in the projects, but it's like that person that lives in the projects and wants a Mercedes-Benz. And you're like, man, I want that Mercedes-Benz. Man, get out of the projects. For real. And the crazy part is there's more Benzes and Beamers in the projects parked than in the houses. I've always told my wife, be like, oh, why don't you get yourself a nice Mercedes and stuff? You deserve it. You work hard. And I'm like, man, because I'd rather have another house. And I'd rather buy another house and another house because I know it's going to make me more money. And one day I'll buy it if I want it. If not, I like my Ram. $35,000. Broom, broom. It's all good. Doesn't bother me. The promise will come. Pastor Pablo tells me all the time, God showed me a vision, right? He showed me a vision, and the house was large, and it had multiple floors. And I'm like, man, be quiet already. If I'm not getting the house, I don't want to hear about it anymore. It's true. I mean, and then can I be honest? Can I be frank with you? And then when God birthed in me this year about this missions movement, and I didn't really understand it at first. I didn't really, I was like, okay, we'll do missions. We'll go to Colombia. I know I can get some gigs over there, as I call them. And yeah, we did. We went to Colombia, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a total of 65 plus or minus salvations. That's huge. Add that to the 250 that we had in May. You're talking about 315 salvations. You guys allowed yourselves to be used by God to impact 315 people in a different country. So when you deposit money into missions, don't think, oh, I wonder what pastor's going to eat with this. Don't worry about it, man. Pastor don't need your money. God bless you. Worry about being able to reach somebody that was strung out on drugs. There was a young man that came up to me, and I shared with him how over my years of being a pastor, God used me in 2 different occasions to pray for someone with AIDS, and they were healed. And this man came up to me with his mother at the end of one of the services, and he goes, Pastor, I need you to pray for me. And I said, what's wrong? And he goes, I have AIDS. I believe that he was healed. You facilitated that. I mean, you got to understand, a couple of years ago, I went, this month that just passed, I went to a church in Bogota that a couple of years ago, I walked in and I had no clue. There was 3 women that were barren. They couldn't have kids. Those women gave birth. I don't know what's up with this. It's crazy. Then you go to Medellin. This time, there was not one woman in the altar call. They ran. And that's Pastor David's fault. He tells them, he goes, el pastor Joell, la mujer que toca, queda en embarazo. And I'm like, that just does not sound right, Pastor. But I get it. I get it. And it's true. And what that does is, to be quite honest with you, it frustrates me. Why it frustrates me? Because there's people within our church that I want to help in certain areas that I can't. When Miss Muriel comes up and she goes, Pastor, my hip. And I'm like, we're going to pray until that hip gets better. Well, God decided he had a different plan. He just changed it. Right? But I'm not going to tell you I didn't get frustrated. I said, Lord, what's going on? I said, my prayer ability, Lord. What's going on? My prayer ability. God had a different plan. It wasn't so that Pastor Joel can say, oh, these hands heal hips. He had a different plan. He said, I'm going to touch a doctor, and the doctor's going to heal her. The doctor's going to come through and fix the issues. And I have to come to terms with that and understand that his promise is his promise regardless of whatever I may see. And it doesn't have to work the way that I want it. If she's healed today, that was the ultimate outcome. I don't care how it happened. It wouldn't have mattered if I'd have hit her with a hammer on her hip, but for her hip to get better, amen. If that had to happen, and then it happened. The point that I'm trying to make is, why do we think that we have to tell God how to be God? And we get upset at his promises because we want his promises the way we want them, because he made a declaration or an assurance that him will do a particular thing. And he's like in heaven right now saying, I never stopped doing it. I never intended not to do it. So what's the problem? It's like when sometimes I ask my wife to do something for me, and I know she's translating, God bless her. And sometimes I ask my wife to do something for me, and she won't do it right away. And you don't understand, man. I have like piquiña. I'm like ants in my pants. I'm like, oh, can you do this for me? And then I see her, and she's like, yeah. My wife is different than me. She's just chill. She's like, yeah. She's like a hippie, Christian hippie. Translate that, baby. So she's just chilling. I ask her to do something. She's like, okay, I'll get to it. And she will. She does get to it. But she gets to it at her time. And I'm looking at her like, I would have done that already. Come on. But look, all I asked was for something to happen. And she's going to complete it. Just not the way I want it, and just not when I want it. But that doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated by her. I get really frustrated. So you know what I do? Watch this. And if this can help you guys, then my marriage is 100% worth it. What I do is I stop asking her for favors because I'm like, it's just going to frustrate me. A lot of us have stopped asking God for blessings because we're frustrated that we're not getting the blessings that we want. And the Word of God tells us, ask, and you shall receive. Knock, and he shall open. Seek. You ever play hide and seek sitting down? Christians want to do that. Let's play hide and seek, Lord. All right, I'm going to seek my promise. I'm going to sit right here, Lord. Hallelujah, and we'll speak in tongues. Nothing happens. What's going on? God is looking for you to get up and work it. You have a problem. Your church has a problem. Work towards a solution. You're either going to be part of the problem or part of the solution. We hear that in the world. It applies to the church as well. If there's something missing in a leader, if there's something missing in a church, if there's something missing in a promise of yours, work towards that promise. If God tells you that you're going to be a pastor, don't wait till someone says, hey, brother, come over here, I'm going to ordain you to be a pastor. Study. Read the Bible. Go to seminary. Do whatever you got to do. Prepare yourself. Make yourself known to be someone who is thirsty and hungry, because that's when God says, man, you're moving my heart. Man, you're moving my heart. Man, I got to bless you. I got to bless you. You know, why did God bless men like Joshua and Moses and Gideon and all these men? Because they moved, they worked. Why did God bless Samson? I mean, let's be real for a moment. Samson messed up. And he messed up from the beginning. Every time when he was born, first of all, he was spoken out as a prophecy. So he came forth, and the prophecy said, this is what you're going to have, this is what you're going to do, but you can't do this, that. Mother had him. Awesome miracle. Here he is. Oh, I can't be with the Canaanites? I want a Canaanite girl. They just, bam, bam, bam. They hot. The Canaanites. There was a good Jewish girl for him. He just didn't like them because it wasn't the way that he wanted it. How many of us are giving up on the nice Jewish girls? I mean, we laugh, but it's true. We give up on these good things that God has given us because we're like, but I just want Shakira. Those hips don't lie. No, God is saying, look, this one, she's all right, but she's going to make you happy. I don't want happy. Man, she'll make the best stew that you can ever have. Interesting. So here he promised, and he's willing to fulfill. The question is, can we wait for him to do it? And will we allow him to do it the way that he wants to do it? Brother Miguel, you want a job. Awesome job. But right now, God is saying, you know what? I need you to crunch. I need you to step in. I need to form something new in you. I need to make something happen inside of you so that you don't become dependent upon money, but you become dependent upon me. And God is forming him in this moment in his heart. The same thing with Pastor Pablo, that for those who don't know, lost his father this week. And let's keep him and his entire family, Pastor Robert, Pastor Laura, and all of them in prayer, because it's necessary, amen? That's what the body of Christ is all about. But this man, on the day that his father passed, was on the prayer line praying. I was unhappy and happy at the same time. I was like, man, what's wrong with you? Go mourn. And then a part of me, that fatherly part of me said, I'm so proud of you. Because that's exactly what I would have done. I remember my Terminator preaching. How many were there for the Terminator preaching? Eye surgery, 5 o'clock, preaching, 7:30. One eye like this. I'd do it again. I love him. He loves him. He loves him. You all love him. It's like when you love him, it doesn't matter. You just, whatever it is you need, I'm going to do, however it is. And every so often, I relate this to my relationship with my wife when I see that I'm falling off. And sometimes I see it in her reactions towards me. And she's just not that lovey-dovey with me. And I'm like, Joell, what's going on? You stop courting your wife. You stop opening the door. And sometimes you got to tell me, man, you haven't opened the door for me. What's going on? And I'm like, man, you're right. I didn't do it on purpose. I just got caught up in all this stuff. But you know what? I have to do my part. And the more I do my part, the better the relationship comes in. And as we do our part with God, even if we don't see the result that we want, we just start. You go from a moment where you're in nothing and you go into everything in a split second. Because he says, because you were faithful to me in the small, I will put you in the bigger things. How many say amen? Listen to this, a promise, hallelujah. A promise is a legally binding declaration that gives the person to whom it's made the right to expect or to claim the performance or forbearance of a specified act. In other words, you have the right, whatever your promise is, you have the absolute right to expect it. Just not the way you want it, and just not when you want it. If I told you right now, I promise you I'll give you $1 million. I'm not telling you I'm going to give it to you now. I'm just saying I'm going to give it to you, and I did not make that promise to anyone up in here. You could promise me, though. The crazy part is in the society that we live in today, right? If you look at what a legally binding declaration is it's a legally binding declaration that gives the person to whom it's made the right to expect to claim the performance of forbearance of a specified act. Declaration is something that is made known officially or in a public way. Does God not prophetically speak to us our promises? How many times does not God lift someone up amongst us? Ms. Mirtha, unfortunately, she's not here today. But how many times does not that little lady, little firecracker come up and start praying? And when she prays, man, the whole church shakes. My TV shakes at home when I'm watching. She's praying with oomph. Because it's crazy to release something that God said. When you release a promise of God, you almost feel liable. It's like you almost feel like, man, I got to make sure that this person gets healed. Like, Miss Muriel, how's that hip? How's that hip? Come on. But as the promise giver, you just give it. And for a long time, I got tired of his promises, not only that he gave to me, but a lot of the promises that he gave through me. And I said, wait a second, Lord. I said, I prophesy over this person, and they left the church. I prophesy over this person, and they did this. I prophesy over that person, and they left altogether. I prophesy over this family, and they got a divorce. I prophesy over this, and this happened. I prophesy, and I'm like, Lord, what's going on? The promise is dependent on the recipient. If I promise you $1 million today, but you never come back, and I can never see you again, how can I give it to you? Same thing happens with God. When we leave God's house, not a church, but when we leave his presence, when we leave his anointing, when we leave his covering, and we just go out on our own, we're exposed to other things. So even though his promise is there and it's waiting for us, it's like in that Lost and Found in heaven. He puts it in the Lost and Found in heaven, and he just waits for you to be found again because you're already lost. So now he's waiting for you to be found. So here you are in the Lost and Found, your promise in the Lost and Found, and you're walking around, and I'm walking around, and we're walking around aimlessly saying, man, God never loved me. He never came through for me. The church stinks. That pastor's nuts. How can he wear pink all the time? I don't understand this. I don't understand that. And blah, and blue, and blah, and blah, and blah. And we get tired of his promises, but he never told you when or how. And that's what I really want to bring home today. When and how. God has never spoken when and how. God has spoken that he will. And when he wills, things happen. On Friday, I preached about selfie sticks in church. If you didn't see it, make sure you watch it on YouTube. Incredible preaching, incredible service. It was out of this world. I'm dying for Brother Adam, and I bored him today, God bless his soul, because, I'm dying for him to get home to edit it, to put it up there, because I want to hear it again. It's so key to understand that God's power, his anointing, his awesomeness, his promise is so real. That if we embrace that promise, we feel so much better. But we can't embrace it as serving it. We have to embrace it as loving the one who gave the promise. He gave you the promise. You can never forget about him. Isn't it crazy how many of us receive a promise from God and we run from him? Anybody ever do that? I know nobody's going to raise their hand. Oh, one person. I'll make that two with me. It happens. Do I say it so we can feel bad? No, I say it so that you can realize you're not the only one. For me to come up here and talk about promises and getting frustrated with God, to me it's a big deal. I've never heard my pastors frustrated. I can tell you, I've never heard of preaching where my pastor told me that he got raped or he got violated. I never heard of preaching where a pastor told me that he sinned. Never. When I go out on these missions trips and I preach in places, you don't understand, every single service, somebody runs up to me and they're like, I've never heard Pastor tell me that he used to be a pothead. And I'm like, I ain't going to lie to you, you know? And I know that it shakes the boots of a lot of pastors because they're like, what are the people going to think? That you're human. We all are. We all make mistakes. And the same way that we make mistakes, you make mistakes. And the same way that we love you, we want you to love us. Because we all fall and we all fail. Amen? In this day and age, thinking about a legally binding agreement or declaration, would any of you default on something legally binding today? No, right? If you owe a lease, you're going to pay that lease. If you owe a mortgage, you're going to pay that mortgage. Because if you don't, you're going to have consequences. Today, you can't even tell somebody that you're hurt by something they said because they can sue you. It's crazy how we're so prohibited to be able to do certain things. And that legally binding attitude, mindset in the human keeps us doing things. Don't we think that God would do the same? Don't we think that God is going to make sure that he completes his task? Today is the day where we have to separate what the last point says there. Our Father, our human relationships, our human interactions from him. Because if we don't separate them, we're always going to view him as them. And we're always going to think that he's not going to come through. Let's stand to our feet today.
Thank you for joining the NBMI experience today. Like, comment, and subscribe at www.facebook.com/NBMINY or our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NBMICHURCH. Also check out our new and improved website at www.newbeginningschurches.com. And finally, check out our new awesome church app, available on both Android and Apple platforms. Search your app store for NBMI CHURCH and be blessed.